All right, here we go. So we're going to try to break open the Kerygma. All right, so last week we talked about just how easy it is to get into this conversation with people. Your dad was saying to us before we started filming, he shared a quote which I just came across, I don't know, a few months ago from Pope John Paul II. Might be a great way for us just to begin. So John Paul, in a letter that he wrote on catechesis, says this. He says, through catechesis, the gospel Kerygma, which is the initial ardent proclamation by which a person is one day overwhelmed and brought to the decision to entrust himself to Jesus Christ by faith. So, point of that. So the Kerygma is supposed to be this ardent initial proclamation of the gospel. The result of it is I am, overwhelmed by what God has done, and we moved to entrust ourselves to the Lord in faith. Here's the problem. Most of us have never been overwhelmed by the gospel. I think most of us we've lived our lives in such a way that we've never really heard this, and so we're just told, like, be this way and God won't punish you. As opposed to, so the Kerygma is 4 parts. The 4th part is, how should I respond? But I don't know that until I know the first 3 parts. And what we want to do is zero in on the first 3 parts right now. We'll start with the first part. So here's the way I think of it. So I ask it in terms of 3 questions. So the first question is, why is there something rather than nothing? And when I pray with this, so we want to learn both we want to hear this right now. We want God to work in us and to overwhelm us. We then want to be able to interiorize this, get familiar with it so that we can share it with others, so that we can overwhelm them, right? Because that's what we want to do. We want to rescue others. We've been rescued. We want to rescue others. And so we want to be able to find our own way to do this, to share this with others. When I pray with this part of the Kerygma, I ask for a specific grace. So when you guys take this and talk about it, and then more importantly, when you pray about it in front of the Lord, preferably in the Blessed Sacrament, ask for this grace. Ask for the grace to be filled with wonder and with awe. So the question here is, why is there something rather than nothing? Which is a really important question. And it's the starting point for seeing anything, right? Mm-hmm. So in all the conversations that we have with people, before we get to homosexuality or whatever, well, why don't we just ask, why do you exist? How'd you get here? And some people will say, well, I just got here from slime or whatever, right? So that's fine. Rather than debate that, can I just share with you how Scripture answers that? So Scripture's answer is, we exist, there's something rather than nothing, because God, in His goodness and His love, chose to create us. So everything that is, wherever it is because God made it. And the biblical claim is that the highlight of everything He made is us, who Genesis says are made in His image and likeness. So you and I were made for friendship with God, for relationship with God, for relationship with each other. And He created us to enjoy life, and then one day ultimately to be divinized by Him and to share in His own divine nature. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So where's the wonder and awe come from? Here's how I think about it. So Genesis chapter 1, verse 16. So you guys are the math guys, so you can check my math. So I love this. Starting in verse 14. God said, let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens to separate the day from the night. Let them be signs, and for the seasons, and for days and years. Let them be lights in the firmament of the heavens to give light upon the earth, and it was so. God made the 2 great lights, the greater light to rule the day, the lesser light to rule the night. That's the what? Sun and the moon, right. And then I love this. This is like, Scripture's just comical to me sometimes. And then there's a semicolon. He made the stars also.
Throw them in there.
Yeah, like, why not? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, He made stars too, right? So there's this sun, there's this moon, and oh yeah, I forgot, there's all these stars. How many stars are there?
Billions upon
More
billions.
than the number of grains of sand in the world.
Yeah, so our galaxy has roughly 100 billion stars in it. There are roughly 100 billion galaxies in the universe, each with 100 billion stars in it. Now, I mean, I could get to like 90 in my head. Beyond that, I don't know what I'm dealing with, right? This is a massive number of stars, right? So the universe is 46 billion light years across. That's 46 billion times 5.88 trillion miles across, and it's ever expanding. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, he made those too. Yeah, you know? And so this one guy, I heard him talking one time, he was I think they call it a high energy particle physicist. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. All right. I don't know what that is. So I'm an English and a comm major.
You're the math guy right now. So.
No, you're going to check this. So he says, so let me give you an image of how big the universe is. He says, so imagine a sand castle where every single grain of sand is a star in the universe. How big would the sand castle be? He says it'd be 5 miles high, 5 miles wide, and 5 miles long. So I drove this one day. I got out of the car in the parking lot at Good Counsel, and I literally drove 5 miles north, 5 miles east, 5 miles south, and back here. And I had my head out the window the whole time. And I'm trying to picture this mountain of sand, right? Mm-hmm. It must have looked like an idiot driving outside with my head outside the window. But I'm looking up. So this is like the tallest mountain on the face of the earth. And every single grain of sand is a star, not a planet, a star. Or here's one of the ways that I've helped to kind of grasp this too. So there's this guy, Louie Giglio. Have you guys seen the video, How Great Is Our God?
I have not.
Awesome video. This guy's an evangelical guy down in Atlanta. And so he did this, he's got this really cool presentation that he gives. And at one point, he's just helping to understand the vastness of the universe that God's made and whatnot. And he gets to this one star, which until, I think, 2 years ago was the biggest star we'd ever found. Which, in English, the title of it, it's got a Latin name. In English, it would be called the Big Dog. So it's kind of like you on the court, right? So this is the Big Dog. All right, so the Big Dog, get this, you can fit, so in our Earth, you can fit almost 1 million Earths inside the sun. Okay? So our sun is a small star. The Big Dog is the Big Dog, right? So you can fit you can fit 7 quadrillion Earths inside the Big Dog. I don't know what a quadrillion is, right? I'm a comm major. So what is it? A million seconds ago? You know how long that is? If you count from now to 1 million, when will I see you?
Can't do quick math.
12 days.
It's a few days.
Yeah. So that's 1 million seconds. 1 billion seconds from now? How old are you?
25.
How old are you?
25.
All right, so I'll see you guys when you are 56. You start counting from now to 1 billion. I'll see you when you're 56. 1 trillion seconds ago.
Like 30,000 years.
Yeah, 31,000 years from now.
I was talking to someone about this last
Bye-bye.
week, actually.
All right.
Oddly enough.
1 quadrillion seconds from now is 31 million years. You can fit 7 quadrillion Earths inside the Big Dog. He made the stars too. Forgot to mention that. This is just one of the stars in the universe, right?
Detail, right?
And God just breathed all this into being. And the reason why, for me, this is so important. So when you and I pray, we prayed at the beginning of men's group this morning, right? So someone said a prayer, and when I hear a prayer, when I pray, you guys visualize God?
Try to.
You ever tried to?
I think I just focus on listening.
Okay. When you pray, when you say God, do you have anything in mind?
When I pray myself, yes.
Yeah, okay. So for me, the way I think about this is, whatever my image of God is, it's wrong.
Sure.
It's just wrong. It's not even close, right? I mean, God is immense as all get out. So I'm sitting here praying I hope he can do what I'm asking him to do. As if he's somehow, just not quite powerful enough. The universe is massive, and he just breathed it into existence. He didn't even breathe it, he just spoke it into existence. So that's his grandeur. But the reason why I'm filled with wonder and awe is in this massive universe, the person that he most loves, the creature he's most interested in, for some reason, I don't know why, is you. And you and me and all of you. And right now, no matter what's going on in your life right now, my life right now, all the stuff that's going on with transition for me and all this, trying to find a house, I don't know where I'm going to live in July, trying to find $2 million. I mean, all that's going on in my life, the reality is my life is right there in God's hand. And your life is right there in God's hand. And your life is right there in his hand. And he's not nervous. He's not anxious. He's not afraid. And therefore, I don't have to be. Doesn't mean nothing's ever going to happen. It just means the God who loves me is powerful beyond measure. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All of that makes complete sense to me, and I think that answers for me the question of how is there something rather than nothing. But if I go back to the beginning and we say, why is there something rather than nothing?
Mm-hmm.
The first question that is why, right? And I think you actually answered it at the very beginning of all that when you said God, in his goodness and love, created man in his likeness and image.
Right.
And for me, the one word that always sticks out when you say the gospel is power, I hear the gospel is love. I hear love is power. God, in his love, created man in his likeness and image. And I think that at the root of God, at the root of humanity, and at the root of our gospel, and at the Kerygma, is that word love.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And for me, that's the why.
Yep. Okay. And that's spot on, right? And the way I'd translate that, especially when we're sharing the gospel in this first phase with somebody, is here's the summary. You matter. Like, you matter to God. He thought you were worth creating. So I know life might be challenging right now. That's why we might be having this conversation, whatever the conversation might be. But what I'm trying to share with you, the biblical vision of why you are breathing right now, is you're worth it to God. So much so that he who is so immense loved you into being.